It is said that you cannot stop the storm, only the way you are swept by it. Imagine a wind so loud it drowns your thoughts, a rain that erases the path beneath your feet, and a horizon that refuses to stay still. Somewhere inside each of us a weather rages, memories like thunder, fears like lightning, urges like sudden gusts. Tonight's story is about one man who ran from that tempest until his running became the very force that carried him into ruin. He would learn at last that fleeing never quiets the storm, only something else can. In a small coastal village surrounded by tall cliffs and endless waves, there lived a man named Aaron. To everyone, he seemed hard-working and kind, but inside, he was a prisoner of restlessness. His mind never stopped moving. At dawn, he worried about what he had failed to do the day before. At night, he replayed every mistake, every word that could have been said differently. The villagers often saw him walking alone by the shore, his eyes distant, his hands trembling as if holding invisible burdens. The sound of the wind and waves seemed to echo the noise inside his heart. He longed for peace but had no idea where to find it. One evening, as a storm gathered over the sea, Aaron felt the same chaos rising within him. The sky darkened, lightning cracked through the clouds, and he began to run. Not to any place in particular, just away. Away from the storm, away from himself. The rain fell harder, needling his skin. Each flash of lightning lit his path for a heartbeat, then vanished, leaving him blind again. The harder he ran, the louder the storm became, roaring both above and inside him. He stumbled through the forest, gasping for breath. "Why can't I find peace?" he cried to the wind. "Why does everything I do end in noise and failure?" His voice was swallowed by thunder. Branches whipped his face, the mud clung to his feet. His thoughts turned against him, memories of anger, shame, and regret swirled like debris in a hurricane. The storm outside seemed to answer the storm within. Finally, he collapsed near a flickering lantern that hung by an old wooden gate. Beyond the gate stood a small monastery. Through the veil of rain, Aaron saw an old monk sitting cross-legged beneath the porch, eyes closed, unmoving, as if the storm did not exist. Aaron crawled toward the porch, soaked and shivering. "Master," he shouted above the wind, "how can you sit here so calmly when the storm is tearing the world apart?" The old monk slowly opened his eyes. They were calm, deep, and bright like the surface of still water. A faint smile appeared on his lips. "My son," he said softly, "the storm you speak of is not out there. It is within you." Aaron looked around in confusion. "But the wind, the rain, everything is shaking." The monk pointed toward the horizon. "The sky is vast, yet when the clouds move, you think the whole world trembles. Sit with me and see for yourself." The words were simple, but they carried a strange power. Aaron hesitated, then sat beside the monk. The cold air bit his skin, but the old man's stillness drew him in, as if time itself had stopped. The monk spoke again, his voice blending with the rain. "When the wind stirs the lake, the water becomes troubled. But when the wind ceases, the reflection of the moon appears once more. The lake never lost its clarity. It only forgot its stillness." Aaron listened, his breath uneven. The monk closed his eyes again and said, "Do not fight the storm. Do not flee from it. Sit within it. Let the wind howl, let the rain fall, and watch them pass through you. Peace is not found by running. It is found by staying."
The storm raged on, but something in Aaron began to shift. He closed his eyes, feeling the rhythm of his heart against the roar of thunder. For the first time, he did not resist. He did not argue with his pain or chase it away. He simply breathed. The minutes stretched. The sounds around him softened. The monk's lantern flickered, then steadied. Slowly, the rain eased. The wind fell into silence, as if exhausted by its own shouting. When Aaron opened his eyes, the clouds were breaking apart, revealing a sliver of golden light on the horizon. He felt something unfamiliar, a deep stillness, not given by the world, but rising from within. The monk beside him hadn't moved at all, yet everything around them seemed transformed. Aaron whispered, "It stopped." The old monk smiled gently. "The storm never stopped, Outrun. You did." At that moment, Outrun understood. All his life he had been fighting the noise in his mind, anger, fear, guilt, believing he had to silence it to find peace. But now he saw that peace was never the absence of noise. It was the quiet presence that had been watching all along. He bowed to the monk, tears mixing with the last drops of rain. The world felt lighter, not because the storm had gone, but because his heart had finally become still. When dawn arrived, the sky shimmered with a soft silver hue. The world smelled of wet earth and renewal. Outrun walked down the hill, the same path he had once fled upon, but every step now felt lighter, deliberate, aware. He could hear the drip of rain from the leaves, the distant murmur of waves, and the quiet beating of his own heart. All were part of the same rhythm. There was no longer a war between him and the world.
As he reached the edge of the village, he looked back toward the monastery. The monk was still sitting under the porch, eyes closed, perfectly still. Outrun smiled and whispered to himself, "The storm outside can never harm the sky within." From that day forward, whenever life grew heavy, when the world screamed, when fear rose again, Outrun no longer ran. He sat down, closed his eyes, and waited until the storm passed through him like wind through the trees. My friends, we all carry storms within us. They take different shapes: anger, regret, fear, the endless noise of thoughts that never rest. We spend years trying to escape them, through work, through distraction, through the illusion that peace lies somewhere outside. But no matter how far we run, the storm follows, because it was never out there. It was always inside. The truth is simple, yet most of us overlook it. When we stop resisting our pain, it begins to dissolve. When we stop running, we start seeing. The storm has no power once we stop feeding it with fear and reaction. The next time your heart feels heavy and your mind refuses to be still, remember Outrun. Sit quietly, breathe, and watch your thoughts as you would watch clouds drifting across the sky. They come and go. You remain. Peace is not something you earn after the storm. Peace is the space that has been waiting beneath it all along. So, dear friends, when life begins to roar and the winds of worry rise, do not rush to hide from them. Sit down for a moment. Feel the breath moving through you. Let the storm speak, and then let it pass. The sky within you has always been clear. You only forgot to look up. If this story touched a quiet place in your heart, share it with someone who might be lost in their own storm. Maybe tonight, they too will remember that peace is not found by running away, but by learning how to stay. May you walk gently today, beneath calm skies, even if thunder rolls in the distance. And may you never forget, the storm inside you was never your enemy. It was your teacher.